Hi, I'm Casey. Thanks for coming. Good to meet you all. Let me tell you who I am a little bit real quick. I wrote a book. It came out a year ago, Debugging Your Brain. You might like it. I have some copies. I'm carrying some of those and stickers and bubbles. It's a good icebreaker if you want to say hi to me. I like singing and dancing and blowing bubbles. That's kind of the person I am. I play a lot of instruments. I have a full rainbow of instruments, and I can play Bad Romance on all of them. You might know my voice from the Greater Than Code podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts on that. If not, you might like that podcast. It's pretty good. You might know me from Ruby for Good if you've gone to any of our events. Like we did the Diaper Bank event yesterday, volunteering. It's a lot of fun. If not, you might like it. Sign up to the mailing list to hear about our summer event. There might be one in July. I co-founded the online community and event series, Empathy in Tech. Just another thing y'all might like. And I've done all these roles. I've been an engineer, UX designer, product manager, engineering manager, and now I'm a consultant. I work for my own company, happy and effective. Every team I've worked with has become like the happy team and the most effective team at the company. And I do it by doing like organizational assessment interviews, surveys, coaching workshops. Anyway, enough about me. I don't want to talk about that so much today. There's two parts of this talk. You might have noticed the plus sign in the title. The first half is evaluating cultural fit, which is like, what makes a company or a position at a company good for me in particular? And should I stay where I am or switch companies? The second half is about culturesmithing. If I do want to stay, or if I change a company to a new one, how do I change that culture to make it better, more effective, and healthier? I have a lot of concepts. This is going to be a dense talk. There's a lot of reading assignments and homework. I'm literally assigning homework if you're here. It won't be graded though. The reference doc at the bottom right has every reference in this, like every image, every article that I'm referencing, and all the homework. So that's at the bottom of every slide. Feel free to take a picture if you want. It looks like this. It's just a Google Doc. Homework slides look like this. I'll flash by them because they're all written in the Google Doc, but I'm just saying like, and you could think about this more later, and there's prompts. You could also use the homework as like dinner conversation prompts, and you'll see examples. You'll be like, oh, I guess I could ask that over dinner. All right, into the first half, evaluating cultural fit. For this, I want to start at what makes you happy at work. It varies by person. It's not the same answer for everyone, but there are some themes. Like here is a concept, ikigai, a Japanese concept for a reason for being, and the common diagrams of it have these 4 bubbles, Venn diagrams. If you can do a job that you love to do and you're good at and the world needs it and you get paid for it, that's awesome. I hope you all work somewhere like that, or you can get there soon. But what goes into happiness for you, it could be those 4, but there's probably a lot of other little different nuanced things. If you had to explain it over dinner, what would you say to someone else? For me, it's something like I need enough money and I want to make a good impact and social connection to my teammates, a good culture. I want to be learning things still. I want to have support. When I did this like a year or 2 ago, before I started a consultancy, I was asking myself these questions, and that's my list. You might have a similar one. Homework 1, figure out your list. What's important to you in a job? What has made you happy before? What's made you unhappy before? And what would the ideal job look like? All right, I'm going to assume now we're fast forwarding. You've figured that out. Good job. You've talked about it with friends. You've gotten the process. Now you know what you like in a job. There's a couple other concepts I want to point out about what makes a company a good cultural fit for you or not. One is I want to distinguish between cultural fit and cultural superiority. There are literally some cultures at work are literally more effective. They get more done. People are happier there. But I'm not trying to be moralistic about like what is good or bad. I want to work at somewhere that is more effective. So that's the right column on this one, the performance-oriented, not a power-oriented or rule-oriented culture. And these 3 categories you can read more about, the Western organizational culture types. It's in the notes if you want to read more about that. Some people might not mind being in a rule-oriented work environment. And if that's you, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be in the 3rd column. That's not where you want to be. And when I say cultural fit, people often ask me, like, what do you mean fit? Because a lot of times it's used from the one side, the company interviewing the employee, potential employee, but you are also reverse interviewing the company. You want to make sure wherever you work is a good cultural fit for you. So if you like the rule-oriented environment, You might like working for the government. You might not want to work for a startup where it's more chaotic, or vice versa, of course. All right, next concept. There are some toxic traits that probably no one likes. Here's the top big 5 from MIT Sloan. The 5 toxic traits of teams are: if you're somewhere that's disrespectful, yeah, no, we don't want to work there. Non-inclusive is negative. Unethical, cutthroat, abusive. You can read more about how they came up with this list of 5. It's like empirically based in the notes if you'd like. But if those resonate with you for your current job, company, position, team, I hope you can get out of there. You deserve better than that. You don't deserve to work in a team with these traits. Toxic culture, the 10.4 here, the top big red bar, is the biggest predictor of people leaving. Also, the Great Resignation. There was a big study which factors affected the most. Toxic culture is the biggest one. This is another great paper in the notes. Whew, take a breath. All right, throwing a lot at you. You've got a lot of reading to do. Next up, change over time. I like to think about how my work happiness has changed at each company and in the company, how it's ebbed and flowed. Here, I started somewhere, I was like pretty high, like 7, 8, and then COVID hit and it went down, of course, for a lot of us. I got a new manager, maybe, and it went up. It was great. Oh, but it didn't change the entire culture of the whole org, so it was like a short-lived glimmer of hope. You might have a similar story where it's going up and down. I like to split these into 3 zones. There's the, I'm totally staying here, I love it, the top green area. There's, if it goes below a threshold, you're gonna leave, you need to leave, you don't wanna stay there anymore. But a lot of us, when we're thinking about it, and if you're here for this talk, you might be in the blue zone. I don't know, it could be better, it could be worse, and it's kind of hard to navigate. All right, some tools to help you navigate that in the homework. You can put on a scale of 1 to 10, like I did, how happy you are with your current job, from this scale of ranges of jobs you could ever imagine. And score them and see how it's changed over time, and what things could change it. Next, I like to go through this with people and you can brainstorm your options. It's more than just leave to another company, A, B, C, D, like all those companies I'm interviewing at. You could also stay at your company and try to change the team you're on or do an internal transfer. There's more options than you might be thinking if you think more widely. And then here's a workshop I do with both people and teams where I come up with all the criteria as columns and then all of the options as rows, and I put numbers to all of them, and then I compute it. And it's not a magic 8-ball, it doesn't tell me what to do, but this does help me be sure what I like about this job versus that one and how important these things are. This is a spreadsheet template linked to in the notes too if you want to try to do your own. All right, that was fast. That was a great crash course, how to decide where to work. Got it. Part 2. By the way, we do have questions at the end. If you want to have a question for that first part, you can do that at the end. Culturesmithing. So let's say you're at a company and you are interested in changing the culture for the better. I'm going to go through some high-level principles, and then I've got a list of 30 concrete actions, which might have been the thing that caught your attention. I know it caught mine when I was skimming my description myself. I was like, oh, 30 things, I want that. It said 20. I ended up with 40. We're nearer to 30 now. You can read the full list in the doc too. All right, I'm going to give you some examples of culture change here, and it's also something you might want to do on your own later is to think about it. The ones I think about is I worked somewhere where no one had lunch together. No one ate together. It was silent. People ate at their desk every day. And when I was like, I'm going to go eat in the lunchroom, they were like, really? I'm like, yeah, and you're invited if you get over it. I don't know. It's cultural change. Eventually, people had lunch more often, but not everyone. So I nudged the culture that way. Correcting microaggressions. I like to work in places where it's easy and comfortable for if someone makes a microaggression, if they say something that hurts someone else, even if it seems like a minor thing, then they can be corrected and there's no hurt feelings. You're just like, oh, I won't say that anymore. Recently, I think I said driving the snakes from Ireland, and someone said, oh, it's not great for reasons, and I had a good discussion about it. I might not use that anymore. And you might want to read about why if you're curious about that particular one. But anyway, a culture of being comfortable correcting microaggressions. I want that culture, and I want to steer us toward that. Another hot topic for developers is you should never deploy on Friday, unless it's actually safe to do it, and we should get over that because that was an old rule when we had a more brittle deployment scheme. And having a backup person. If you go on vacation for a month, who's going to do your job? We should have backups for everyone. That's a cultural norm. At some companies I've worked, we had that, and some we didn't. I want to encourage that norm to happen. All right, as you're working on these things, it does take a lot of energy. So I'm going to cover energy management a little bit. I'm assuming for all of these 30 examples and all of these ideas that you have time and energy, but at times you will not have the time or the energy to work on this, and that's okay. You have to moderate your own energy spending, how much you're investing in this, and set boundaries for yourself. That's totally okay. I'm not going to harp on this too much more, I hope. But everything I say, of course, there's an asterisk, like if you have time and energy. Another big idea is to focus on what's possible. You don't have a lot of control, but you have some control. And you can use that control. If all of you, everyone at your company uses your control, that's a huge force. Kind of like unions, but you don't have to like unionize to have the social kind of effect to make this cultural change happen. Another thing, energy related, is power dynamics. So if you're in a lower level position, like an individual contributor, engineer, then making changes like widespread for the team are probably harder because you don't have that kind of positional authority to do those, but you have more context. You know what the pain points of that team are, and you know what your teammates are saying more than the VP of engineering might know if they're not like on the ground talking to everyone all the time. Vice versa, if you're in a higher power position, you have more ability to make change, but less context. So how do you get that context to make sure you're making good decisions? The thing that excites me most about this talk is inspiring a lot of people to realize you do have power to change the culture where you're working. You do as an IC, and you do as a leader too. A lot of my examples here, anyone can do, and I'm like focused on the IC cases, individual contributor cases. Another big concept, give yourself permission. Have you done this yet? Do you have permission to change the culture of your company? Have you given it to yourself? All right, take a breath. I have permission. I've granted it to myself. And you, I don't know, you might get yelled at if you're in a toxic company, but you have permission to try to change it, and it's a good, valiant kind of thing to do. I like this mantra a lot, ask for forgiveness but not permission, because if you ask up front, oh, what do you think, everyone in charge, and if you all don't say yes, I won't do it. And it's really hard to make change if you're in that kind of mindset. You really want explicit buy-in. Here's a big old diagram that I think about a lot. There's two different spectrums that I go to when it comes to permission. There's the vertical one, the explicit to implicit, like how, is it a written rule or is it like what we happen to do and no one talks about it? And then on the x-axis, it could be something explicitly forbidden or implicitly forbidden. It could be permitted, like you're allowed to, but I don't care if you do it or not, or it could be encouraged, like we actively want you to do it. Now, you can go further and say it's required, but for a lot of the context, this is the range that I'm thinking in. So here's an example A for no deploys on Fridays as the example. It might have used to been explicitly forbidden to deploy on Fridays. And over time, maybe it became less explicit. It wasn't written in all of the docs for all of the new apps and stuff like that. And it's like gradually changing. Then it's permitted and some teams do it and some teams don't. And then maybe it's encouraged eventually. And that's a huge cultural shift if you've gotten to that point. That's just one path. It could go through lots of different paths I can imagine. This is a pretty common one to make it less explicit. And then you change it, and then it's explicit the new way. But you can like teleport across, like if there's a top-down rule change mandate, maybe you just flip to the other side all of a sudden. That does happen too. More homework for you, or dinner conversation. Think about a change you've tried to make it work. Like I gave you 4 of mine. What's a change that you've tried to make happen, and how did it go? Did it work or not? And then where did it start on the permission spectrum, these 2 scales, and where did it end up? So for my deploy on Fridays, I told you it started here and it ended up the other one. Kind of did the U-shaped one for me. All right, next big concept. What are some levers of change? If you know you want to make a change, you want deploys to happen on Fridays, maybe. How do you even start? What are the types of things you can do? I love this model. I don't expect you to read this whole thing. It's in the notes if you want to read the original science paper from like agriculture science is where I pulled this from. But these 5 categories at the bottom, those circles, are what I'm going to go into. This is the reset model of setting incentives and getting people's behavior to change. There's these 5 categories, and generally anything that motivates people can fit into these 5 categories. I think that it's a really like neat structured framework for this kind of thing. So the 5 are rules, education, social pressure, economics, and tools and processes. When I'm trying to change culture, I often end up naturally thinking about one of these, like rules. Oh, we need to change the rules. Deploying on Friday? Oh, it's a rule change. We have to change it. But if I remember to think more broadly, I can come up with a whole bunch of things like education. Oh, people need to know it's okay sometimes if the CI is solid and you're doing blue-green, you can do a great rollback, like education, sharing YouTube videos, sharing articles with the team, like socializing the idea. Social pressure, we can have people talk about it, and some people are advocates for it, and then you can help them share it more. It doesn't just have to be the rule, flipping the rule on. There's a lot of these tools. All right, next concept is gradual change. So a lot of changes are really gradual, but it's not often just a light switch. I think about this curve a lot. I had an iPod Touch, which did you know is discontinued? They're not making it anymore. It's so sad. I had that before the iPhone was popular. So I was like on the innovator, the leading edge. I could check my calendar on that little thing. It was so cool. I loved it. But my mom's best friend, an older woman, still has a flip phone, and she loves it. And she's not planning to get a smartphone, so she's on the laggard end. And then there's a big bulk of people, like a lot of people got the iPhone, like smartphones in general, like across the span of a few years, maybe a decade. But anyway, like this is an adoption life cycle curve. I want to show you this one first, actually. Here is same-sex marriage and how it happened over time. You'll notice it's kind of flat for a lot of this. That's kind of the inflection point of the curve. The other one looked a lot rounder than happens in real life a lot. If you're trying to change something at your company, you might be in Vermont or Massachusetts. You're one of the first people to make the change. And you might not feel like much change is happening. And even if you get one more person on your side, it might not feel like that much progress, and it's true. And it might not be that much progress. It might revert, it might go flat down, it's possible. But a lot of change is gradual like this, and if you keep pushing for it and you're persistent, they can get through eventually. All right, so here's a recipe for making change happen. You do something once, and then you do it again, and then you do it a whole bunch more. And then eventually, after maybe several decades, in the case of same-sex marriage, it becomes like the new normal. It's the way we do things. And that's a powerful, powerful change. Like, it's huge. Kind of like refactoring, what was it in the keynote? Autoload, yeah, refactoring autoload. Like that was a long saga, and he kept persisting toward it. And like now we just have the new autoload. Of course we have. We've never had to think about autoload, is what we'll say in 5 years. It's never been a thing. All right, so that's how gradual it is. And when you're in the Vermont, Massachusetts part of a cultural change, it can feel like you're not making progress. And I don't know, I encourage you to get support, get people to talk to about it who understand what you're going for, and you can consider whether to keep going or not. Like that is a hard spot to be in when you don't see the progress happening. But if it's valuable and you really believe in it and you are persistent, you can often get it through. All right, next big concept. I've worked with some consultants who are really good at making the change happen while they're there, and then they leave, and it just reverts right back. Because it wasn't a cultural change. It was like they just did things that way. And it was great. It was really powerful, and it showed it could be done. That's actually a nudge toward changing the cultural norm, but it wasn't like permanently changed. So how can you make it stick? One of my tricks for this is you can do the thing once, or you can do it a couple times, and then share those results. So you're not just doing it and getting the results, and you're like, we know it works. You're also telling everybody, look at this story. Here is a story. We did this thing, and it worked, and it was great, and you have to repeat it a lot for people to really understand it and remember it and start telling it to each other. It's amazing how repetitive it can be when you're trying to change a cultural issue at a company. I end up saying the same thing over and over and over and over, and I feel like a broken record. But the people don't mind that often. Like they're like, oh, that's true. And like maybe they start saying it eventually. And a huge victory for me is when somebody ends up saying to me the idea I've been trying to incept for 6 months. And they said it as if it's their idea. And that's great. Good job. I'm so glad they're thinking that way. They did get to that conclusion too eventually. They didn't just take my word for it. That is awesome. Another trick is if you have a track record, if you can get a change to go through that's popular, that people like a lot, that can end up giving you a lot more freedom to try different things. Celebrating things along the way. How do you celebrate your achievements right now when you do a cool change at work? Who do you tell and when and how often? There's a lot of ways you could. Yeah, my big question is always, I want long-term change. How can I get it to stick? What do I need to do to get it to stick? Often it's getting other people to do the things or to understand the things or believe them or advocate for them. It's not just me. If I just did it alone, the change wouldn't last when I left. All right, so many concrete actions. I'm going to try to go really quickly through these and then still leave time for questions. I'm not going to get through all of them, but they're in the doc, and I'll try to get to like the high-level concepts behind each one at least. I'll probably end up reading just one example from each slide, and if that's interesting, you'll probably like the others in that slide. Check them out later. When I was practicing, I tried to come up with a song to go with these. It's like improvising to myself, but not confidently enough to do it right now. Maybe later. Ask me at karaoke. You can be actively friendly to new people on the team. That's just been huge. When there's one person welcoming you to the new team actively, just because they wanted to, it changed how the whole team felt. And then I did it too, and then cultural change happens. You can increase how much people talk to each other, like the water cooler effect. If you want to read the psychology of it, the propinquity is a good term that's linked in the notes. You can make social chat rooms like #hi, where you can only say hi, only HI enter, nothing else. It's awesome. I feel really close to the people who say hi before and after me, and like, it's really cool how it really works. I've got a cool Twitter thread in the notes that links, describes 20 different fun, like Slack, Discord, Teams channels. I dare you to make one. That's like the easiest one on this list. Go ahead and make a chat room and invite your 5 friends, and like, maybe you'll get more people eventually. All right, spreading awareness of what your team's doing. If you aren't participating in a demo day at your work, or even if you are, did you know you could just make your own? Even as an engineer, as an individual contributor, if you just put it on the calendar, invite people and say, I'm gonna talk about this thing that you might wanna know about, people will probably show up. I dare you to try it. You can even do it the opposite and get another team to give a demo day of their stuff for your team. You have the power, it's true. Unless you're in a toxic work environment and they like hoard power and stuff like that. Caveats. I hope that's not where you're at. If you do, maybe leave, like the first half of the talk will say. All of the individual contributors, can ask for one-on-ones with anyone, with your manager, that's a pretty common one, with your boss's boss. And if you say it's a skip level, they'll say, oh, that's a concept that I'm now familiar with and I guess I'll do. Thank you. Yes. Like the name gives it a lot of power. You can have one-on-ones with your teammates. Even if you work with them, you might not get to talk to them. You can have one-on-ones with people in the same role in another team, and that's pretty valuable too for cross-team communication. You can do random ones with an app like Donut that just pairs people. And this is all really good for like information flow. You could model information flow in your company, and all of these connections are like connect the nodes, and it's just more resilient, it's more effective, it's proven very helpful. One-on-ones are proven effective, and you all should do them. You can ask for support, maybe in the one-on-ones, maybe otherwise, from all of those different people that we're talking about. And you can offer support to them. If you're uncomfortable asking for support, maybe starting the support exchange by offering is a good place to start. Hey, what's on your mind? What's hard lately? Oh, tell me about that. That's an example introduction to giving support to someone. Where do you celebrate things? I like sharing release notes in English that other teams can understand. And people say, that's cool, you did that thing. And I know what it means. An engineer could write that too. You can. When someone's sharing something and maybe hesitating, you can encourage them to share more by like prodding them a little, being curious. Oh, tell me more about that. That's a really good phrase. Here, say it after me. Tell me more about that. It's amazing how well it works. It sounds awkward maybe. It's like, oh, I would never say that. And then I did, and people loved it, and they told me more, and now I can't stop saying it. It's a good icebreaker in the hallway too. All right, your manager probably doesn't get as much feedback as they'd like. And if you ask them, they'll probably say, you know, that's true. Because all the studies are like, I don't know, 70, 80% of people don't get enough. It's true, most people don't. And then if you can talk to them about that, you can like upward coach your manager to get more feedback from the team, including you. If you just help prod and fan their curiosity. If the company is too focused on rules, you can frame things as experiments. Oh, we're just gonna try it just this once. We'll just see how it goes, don't worry about it. And enough persistence of that, I've gotten clients to change, to try some things. It's very gradual. It feels like I'm Massachusetts sometimes, but getting it to go. For inclusion ideas, like avoiding microaggressions, having one-on-one discussions are really powerful because people can really talk about it freely with one person that they can't do on a larger team. Having a discussion as a team is really powerful because it sets the norms for the team about the behavior. You can also request training from people who do this. There are a lot of social rules on your team that might not be well defined. If you can get them to be defined, that's a step forward toward changing them. Like, tell me about this. Why do we do this way? And like, just keep asking. Maybe you can get it written down even. Another trick. Communication, modeling curiosity is very powerful. We covered that a little bit. Have you ever been on a project where you get called in too late and all the decisions are made and you're like, this doesn't make sense. And now it's too late to change and they won't let me. You can figure out how to get in earlier on the next project. It's work. It is time and energy, but you can figure out how to do it. Like ask, are there any projects coming up I should know about? Oh, is that project happening yet? Oh, can you invite me to that meeting? And they'll be like, sure, I guess, because that's weird. We don't do that here, but okay. And then you can start that norm. You can be the Massachusetts and get it going. Empower yourself, and you can empower others. That helps make longer lasting, more widespread change. Encourage your teammates to do all of these things too. All right, outro. You can hire me to work with company to do things like this. I'm also offering a free workshop for your company, just because you're here. Not too many. I don't have that much bandwidth to do all this free stuff, but some I have. I also do community groups, like local meetups. If you're in one, I'd be happy to talk there. I do 2 a month for that. Some of my popular workshops are feeling understood, getting people to really communicate like, oh, I know how that feels. And they say, oh, I feel so understood. People love that. It's a really powerful skill. Yeah, enough of that. Time for questions. Do you want to clap? Go ahead, thank you. By the way, I'll start a thread in open chat if you want to discuss the content of this asynchronously, and I'll put the link in that after I'm off stage. All right, any questions? It could be about evaluating cultural fit, that first half, or culture smithing. Yeah, there's a whole slide I buzzed by. Oh, thank you. I need that. The question was, in a hybrid work environment where you don't have a water cooler to have the water cooler effect, then what can you do to make people have these connections? Here's a few ideas. The social chat room like Hi is one. You can have online social events. I really like Gather.town. You're like a little Pokemon character running around, and you talk to people who are near you. It feels so much different than a Zoom call. You've got to try it if you haven't. Jackbox games, people like that a lot, like online games. Anything to get people talking and sharing about themselves. Affinity groups is another trick. You can have like smaller segments. So like all the people who are into video games, if they just meet and talk, that's another way to get people connected and information flowing beyond video games too, of course. Yeah, a whole lot of things. Remote teams, I've felt more socially connected on many remote teams than I did in the office where we didn't have lunch together. Like being in person helps, but being deliberate helps in either situation way more than just naturally having some. Great question. The question was, you've shared a lot of ideas about what to do, but what about things not to do? Good question. If you're pushing too hard for cultural change too fast, you're gonna get resistance. That's the biggest pitfall. So you might wanna be more of a Massachusetts, Vermont, like slower, just get some people on your side. You can start with the supporters, start with people you know who will support your idea, which is counterintuitive, because I often think if I wanna change something, change the most extreme people first. That doesn't work though. Starting with the people who are your supporters and like activating them and encouraging them to also share, that like spreads a network effect and gets change happening. That's like 2 ideas, yeah. Don't start with your opposition, maybe. It's not the most effective place to start often. That's great. The question was, I'm in a position where I need more feedback from people. How do I encourage that? I mean, one-on-ones is maybe the easiest way, and there's a certain structure you can make your one-on-ones. There's a lot written about it. I give workshops on how to do that well too. Like a certain structure can help people open up. But if the environment isn't safe anyway, if it's like a toxic, non-psychologically safe is another term you might want to look up, and work environment, it's hard to get people to open up. It's really hard. And how do you help them be safe it's a gnarly question. But even just making the space is often, like, I don't know, more than half of the time, making space is really effective. And then the more complex topics, I don't think I have a short answer for it. It's hard. If you want to talk to me later, you can ask me for bubbles. And I'll make that thread in open chat if you want to continue an asynchronous discussion. Thanks so much for coming.